Hi everybody, it's me again. So, do you guys notice anything different today? Yeah, you do. Okay, it's um the color change and well, you could see by the title card that well, we're going to be starting by doing a books versus movie thing where I compare the books and the movies and find out which in my opinion is better. Now, a lot of people often say that books are better than movies or movies are better than books or sometimes even an in between. So, here's how I am going to grade each of the books. And movies. Um, I am going to grade them on either if they're better, if they are tied on both being better, or if the movie is better, or a unique score that I like to call apples and oranges, which in this case means that they're both unique and different, but still fantastic. So, with those scores in mind, let's get to it. Let's get to Lois Lowry's The Giver. We're going to be comparing the movie and the book. Now, I I think these are interesting subjects to talk about. The plot basically centers around a 12 named Jonas. And I say a 12 because that is what he is called. He is 12 years old and just classified as another 12. And he lives in a community where pain and suffering and colors, wars, and crime and natural disasters don't exist anymore. And when he becomes a 12, he gets assigned to be the receiver of memory. And basically, what that means is that he has been assigned to remember everything, all the history, all the past, all the colors, all the music, everything that the community has forgotten. And the deeper he is into his job, the more he finds out how imperfect his childhood world is and that's when he begins to peel little by little away from his friends and family. I remember this book and how back in 8th grade my classmates and I got assigned to pick out this book. At first glance, I look at this. Compared to a lot of other front cover books, it doesn't look the least bit interesting. And while the color's not on right now, it pretty much is a colorless cover. And I kept thinking, oh boy, this is going to be so boring. This is going to be so dull. But, much to my surprise, it is dull. But, somehow, despite being dull, depthless, and pretty much kind of two-dimensional it is, they somehow came out with likable, memorable characters who could not experience joy and sorrow, but they could experience being happy and sad. The shallower feelings rather than the deeper feelings, and yet you still found yourself liking them. I mean, I've never read a book where you could actually do that, where you can create people that are two-dimensional, for lack of a better word, and yet somehow still be likable, memorable, and actually have an impact and make you feel sorry that Jonas has to pull away from them. So yeah, that is fascinating. And also it managed to make me forget what color was, so that when Jonas starts seeing colors like red, it actually was a powerful moment and made me suddenly remember what these colors were. I, and it was amazing for me, honestly. And I, I, I actually remember my classmates and I, how how we felt while reading the book, how happy, sad, and sorry for Jonas we felt, and yet how we got attached to the other characters as well. And it was just really cool, and I kept thinking, somebody should make a movie out of this. They're gonna do a great job over this. I mean, how can you mess this up? Enter 2014. Well, 2014, they finally did work on, I mean, they did make a movie, though, I will say that, I think it was a couple years after the book was released that, I, that, Lloyd Bridges, Jeff Bridges bought the rights to making this book a movie so that his father, Lloyd Bridges, could play the Giver. But since Lloyd Bridges is no longer alive, Jeff Bridges had to take on the role. And, well, we'll get into how he did later. In the meantime, for anybody who read the book, and when the trailers came out, we were horrified. No, not just horrified, we were angry. We were very angry for various reasons. We were angry that it was being shown in color. There was a major reason why the community had no color. And why? Because it led to choices. It led to mocking of a lot of things, including race, including what you wore, including everything. So yeah, that was one of the things that this man-made utopia in the book got rid of. It got rid of color. And so to bring that back was wrong. So when the trailers came out showing that, we were angry and we were ready to bust it down. Though thankfully, at least, that was a false advertisement. The whole movie was not in color. It was only in color when Jonas was allowed to experience color. So points for that at least. The other thing we got angry at was Jonas being a 16 rather than a 12. I get it that we like teen movies, ever since The Hunger Games or other movies, but is the only middle school movie Diary of a Wimpy Kid or something? Because there's got to be more than just that. And plus, I was able to relate to the 12-year-old character in here despite that I was 14 at the time when I read it. So, yeah. And even today, I still somewhat relate to Jonas. And I'm in my 20s. So, yeah. And on top of that, there was actually a reason why Jonas was a 12 in the book and not a 16. That was because feelings in puberty started developing around that age. At 16, they're practically complete. So, as a 12, you're growing up. You're experiencing more. You have what they called stirrings that were to immediately be treated. The fact that they made him a 16, while I do find it a minor forgivable flaw, it's still a flaw. It's still a noticeable flaw because 12 was when they developed more and when they were starting to experience the world more. Teenagers, you were already set. You were already set. At least according to the book. So, yeah, and that led to another thing that got a lot of people frustrated, including myself. Jonas getting a girlfriend. Jonas getting a girlfriend. Now, I know that Hollywood likes to market romance, and perhaps that is why that he's made 16, but might I remind you of the kind of romance that goes on in the book? For those of you who don't know, Jonas is surrounded by at least two friends, Asher and Fiona, who are both his age, who are also 12s at the time. They grow together, they have a childhood together. Jonas kind of gets feelings for him, for her, for Fiona in here. But, in the movie, you don't mistaken it. He absolutely has feelings for her and tries to get her to feel them too. Here, he doesn't, because he knows there's no point. She cannot feel what he feels. She cannot experience what he's experiencing. He cannot pass memories of love, innocence, or times past to anybody else that does not have his kind of eyes. And Fiona was one of them. And so was Asher. He could not do that. And in the movie, they do have a nice chemistry, which I do admit. I still like that scene where they go sledding down a building. But still, there's a scene where they outright kiss. No, two scenes where they kiss. And Jonas never even came close to kissing because she does not understand the concept of love. I think even if she skipped taking a pill or her injections or whichever you like to call them to cure her storings, she would still not be able to understand it the same way Jonas is starting to. And the story was the story was supposed to convey the tragedy of why a man-made utopia can't exist the way we wish. And the plot point of Jonas not getting a girlfriend was actually essential. She's not supposed to have any concept of love, and he's only beginning to understand. And the third point, the other characters. I don't mean Jonas, Fiona, or the Giver. They were pretty good characters, which, again, I'll talk about later. But good grief, what did you do to Asher, Jonas's family, and the community leader? They're all sticks in the mud. I can't blame the scriptwriters, that much for Jonas's family. Because, what can you capture in a book? What you can capture in a book is not something that is easily shown on screen. They're all supposed to have shallow feelings, but still likable enough to feel sorry for them. Here, in the movie, I can't feel anything for them. Not even his younger sister, who's supposed to be energetic, but still bound by rules. And in here, she's defiant for no reason. And for the community leader, I will say ideal casting for Meryl Streep. But then again, you could put her in any role and she could just pull it off. I've yet to see one role she flopped in. Leave in the comments below, I guess. But at the same time, she's not supposed to be a dictator. Which pretty much is what she becomes to anyone who has not read the book. All she ever did in the book was help enforce rules in a friendly manner, not look over everybody's shoulder every moment. But as bad as that is, it's not as bad as what they did to Asher. Ugh. Asher. In the movie, he's mildly funny until he's assigned to be a drone pilot. First of all, where did that job come from? According to the rules in the community and the Giver, all the jobs are supposed to fit with the characters' personalities, and in the book, it's very clear he's a funny kid who fumbles over words, yet is enough to be assistant director of recreation. Even when he and Jonas were starting to split apart, he still had a comedic likability nature, but in the movie, he remains a stick in the mud. It's almost... I can't believe I'm making this comparison, but It's like what they did to Sokka in the last Airbender movie. Yes, I made that comparison. Taking a funny character and turning them into a stick in the mud. Do you not know how to write humor anymore? And we're going to talk about another thing, the fourth thing. And warning, this is one of the major spoiler alerts for both the book and the movie. It's going to be about what they call release. So in the book and the movie, release is often talked about, and Jonas finally finds out what it is, and he and the Giver spy on his father releasing a twin baby. In the book, it describes the father taking his serum and injecting the child with clear liquid, and he limps to one side and doesn't move. Due to his memories, Jonas realizes that his father killed the twin and lied to him about what release was. When I read it, it was shocking, especially to remember that death existed in this world too. It had just been hidden from the public and not understood by anyone who released the children or the elderly. To make it worse, he would even sweetly talk to the child through the process as if he were playing games with it, even after shoving it into a garbage chute. If I remember correctly, I think my classmates and I were so stunned at that scene because we actually did not think that death could exist in this man-made utopia, but apparently it could, and it did, and it completely shocked us. However, when it was shown in the movie, it felt pretty empty. There was nothing really shocking about it either, because the father was barely likable in the first place, and we didn't always see him interacting with with one of the young babies named Gabe. In the book, you would never guess that he could kill anyone. And in the movie, he wasn't really that sympathetic, so I ended up not caring that Jonas was in shock about his father being a murderer. So, yeah, that one was a failed point. And the final thing that I'm going to pick on is that climax. This was a big thing in the trailer that got every book reader mad, and myself as well. So in the trailer, it showed one of the pilots finding Jonas escaping with baby Gabe from the community, and one of the airplanes picks him up basically. And everybody was shocked, going, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen in the book. Why are you putting this in there? That was also my reaction. But also, that was not the only thing that got me upset about that climax. What also got me upset was was what happens during that climax. So, for anybody who doesn't know, pretty much the climax is Jonas abducts little Gabe after learning that he's supposed to be released, and tries to escape past the border so he could give all the memories back to the community. Okay, so, well, in the book it sounds pretty anticlimactic because, well, all he's doing is trying to survive while getting to the border, while getting past the community border where he and Gabe will be safe. But in the movie, while it is kind of exciting, it's really completely unnecessary. They put a time clock on there because during that whole time, Fiona and the Giver are scheduled to be released for helping Jonas escape. And Asher, who is supposed to kill Jonas. And Asher is assigned to kill Jonas. It's a race against time, and despite it being thrilling, Fiona really does not have a reason to be released. It's Asher and Asher should not have been a drone pilot in the first place. So, yeah, all Fiona does is just do nothing, and they just use her as a hostage, basically. It doesn't work like that. It wasn't meant to be like that either. And honestly, even if this was anticlimactic, I actually found it to be a bit more engaging, not because I'm a book lover or anything, but because, honestly, the way they wrote it, the way they developed the characters, was more engaging. In the movie, all the characters were flat, and you couldn't really write them to be likable. In a book you can do that. And admittedly, in a movie, that's one of the hardest challenges. But, since I've gotten out of the issues out of the way, what are the good things? Well, let's start with the giver, like I said. And, with Jeff Bridges as the giver, good grief, he is perfect. He looks, feels, and talks like the giver. Basically, the giver is the one who trains Jonas to be the receiver of memory. He's the previous receiver of memory, and he's going to give the memories to Jonas, show him how to deal with it, how to use it in life. So yeah, and Jeff Bridges is terrific. And he really carries out that lonely, humorous, grumpy occasionally, and tortured character. So, yeah, Jeff Bridges is perfect for this one. What else is good? Even though, this is kind of meant to be futuristic in some ways, and while some parts don't feel futuristic, I will give the movie this. I like how gadgety everything is in the town. Even the injections, or the medicine for the stirring, instead of taking a pill, they get injected on a daily basis. So I didn't mind that, and they've even got teleporters, and they have screen doors. That's pretty cool. I kind of like that town a bit. So yeah, and the screen that Jonas uses to watch his father release somebody is actually really, really well done. And on top, what else is there? Oh yes, I almost forgot about this. One thing that also made me skeptical about the movie was the fact that Taylor Swift was going to be in it. Yes, Taylor Swift is in it. Can you guess which character she was? Well, for anybody who's seen the movie and could not guess, she's the failed receiver, Rosemary. And you could never guess. For the most part, it would be hard to guess that was her. Because one thing I was skeptical about it was I kept saying, you better not burst into a pop song. You better not steal the spotlight, because, yeah, you were the failed receiver before Jonas, but still, you are not the movie. You're not the movie, so don't try to steal it from Jonas. She doesn't. She's there for maybe, 3 minutes, and that's it. And she doesn't even look like Taylor Swift. She just looks like a different character, and so 5 points to you for that movie. So, yeah, but aside from all that, mostly what this movie misses pretty much is what made the book so thought-provoking, and what is essentially why a society cannot live on a man-made utopia by vilifying the community. The community wasn't the bad guy. They just wanted everything to be perfect without realizing the cost of deep emotions. It's kind of like something out of a Rob Serling Twilight Zone episode. The movie, though, I will give them this. They tried, being on par with some of the moments that ended up in the book, but we're really unable to do so. So, in all honesty, the winner is the book. For having more developed characters, more thought, and being able to be thought-provoking. And in all honesty, in my opinion, I compare a lot of what goes on in our society today with this book. It's a children's novel, for lack of a better word, but yet it's somehow that good. And so, for any of you watching, I encourage you, go on Amazon, go to your local library, or go on Kindle and get this book, or just borrow it for a while, because Lois Lowry's The Giver is actually that engaging, that good. So yeah, go read it. The winner is the book.